welcome back to my channel today. So I'm going to be doing a review and demo on a super hyped up product that everyone has been talking about for like months now. I finally got my hands on one and I wanted to show you guys what I thought about it and if it actually works. It is the Silisponge and mine is pink, which I thought was really cute. This is not from the Molly Cosmetics website. I got it from another one that I saw on Facebook, but I figured it's like literally the same thing. I wanted to just try it and see if it really is like what everyone's talking about, if it's like really good coverage. I just want to see it myself and try it out, and I also want to compare it against my Ride or Die, which is the Real Techniques blending sponge. So if you guys want to see how these two match up against each other and if this little silicone sponge thingy is worth the hype, then just keep on watching. I'm going to show you guys. Alright, so I already moisturized and I'm just going to prep my skin with my Hard Candy Coconut Water Primer Stick. I did a full review on this if you guys want to check it out. I love this stuff. It is so bomb, and I'm just going to apply this all over my face in circular motions, and this really just helps kind of like blur out the pores, and it gives my skin a really nice cooling effect before I apply foundation, which I love. I love just having that like nice little pick-me-up and refresher before I put on my foundation. It feels just really nice on the skin. So today for foundation, I wanted to try something that was like medium coverage, so that's why I chose the e.l.f. I think this is called Flawless Finish Foundation. I'm wearing the color Sand, and this is one of my favorite foundations from the drugstore. It is so good, and it has a really nice powdery scent to it. I really like it. So I'm going to be doing this left side of my face with the pink Silisponge, and I just want to see if this thing actually works. So let's just do this. I'm going to pump out some of that foundation on my hand, and I'm going to pick some up on the Silisponge, and I'm just going to start applying it. And I think you're supposed to just, whoa, that is a lot of product. Holy moly. I think you're just supposed to go like this. Ooh. Dang. It just feels like the foundation, like this foundation is usually like a really, really nice flawless finish on my skin. It feels like you're like whacking it against your face. It kind of hurts. So it's actually not that bad. It just feels like your foundation's a little bit cakey, especially like around the nose. Like I feel like it just looks so thick on the face. I guess because it's not absorbing anything. That's kind of like the whole purpose of the sponge. Kind of like doesn't soak anything up because it's just lying flat on the surface, whereas with like this sponge, it like seeps in a little bit to the sponge and it gives you more of that like kind of blended out, thinned out look on your face. Honestly, maybe I should pick up less product because this applies it like super duper full maximum amount of product. I'm just kind of like hitting it on my head. But it's definitely not as soft as the Beauty Blender, let me tell you that. Honestly, it's actually not that bad. I expected it to be like way more streaky and like terrible looking, but I actually don't mind the finish with it. Maybe I'm the only one to like the Silisponge. I feel like everyone else hated it and I kind of like it. So I also want to try concealer with it. I'm going to use Shape Tape, and this is in Light Sand. This is like my absolute favorite concealer. If you guys haven't tried Shape Tape yet, you seriously need to get on that gravy train. I also been using it for eyeshadow primer, and it blends out amazingly. It is like the perfect consistency. My eyeshadow does not crease. I'm actually wearing it today as my eyeshadow primer, and I love it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Shape Tape and put some on underneath my eye, and I'm gonna see if this bad boy can blend it out. So let's see. Oh boy. Oh boy. Maybe I shouldn't have put that much because Shape Tape is already so thick. I'm just gonna put a little here on my nose. Ooh. This is not going well with the concealer. Oh goodness. It's a little hard to like get it under your eye. Like it's not like pointed like a Beauty Blender. So it's like you're using this like weird flappy edge here to blend it, which is like not the most comfortable feeling. Just, you gotta work with it a little bit. It's not that like effortless. Like I feel like with a Beauty Blender or sponge, you kind of just effortlessly blend everything in. Okay, moving on to the other side of my face. I'm just going to pick up more of the foundation, and I'm going to use my Real Technique sponge. It's definitely softer on the skin, and it just feels so much like easier to use. Yeah, so a sponge definitely absorbs more product. You do have to use more product with the sponge, but it doesn't make your foundation look as cakey as the Silisponge. So I definitely feel like the side with the Real Technique sponge looks a lot more flawless. Around my nose over here, it kind of like caked up, whereas this side, it looks a lot more smooth, and it did not cake up. So much easier to blend out my under eyes with the sponge. It's way more soft and just overall way easier to blend out. I feel like on this side, it was so much harder because the product was not like moving anywhere. It wasn't absorbing, so it just kind of like sat there on my face. So I'm definitely team Beauty Blender Real Technique sponge right now. This might be good for, I feel like it might be good if you use the Silisponge and then you just kind of go over everything with the Real Technique sponge. That might be a better method because you kind of get that full coverage with the Silisponge, but then you can make it look a little bit more natural, not as caked up with the sponge. But then again, that's like an extra step, so I don't know if you guys would even want to do that extra step. I also want to try it with some cream contour. I'm just going to go into my Anastasia cream contour kit, and I'm just going to apply it with a brush like this first. And I'm going to blend that out with the Silisponge. So it blends out cream contour pretty nicely. Yeah, I think that blended out really nicely. And then I'll do this side with the sponge. So let's see. Blend that out. I feel like the sponge side blended out a little bit more effortlessly, which seems to be the name of the game today. It definitely seems like the sponge is winning out over the Silisponge. I also want to try and set my under eyes with this and see if it actually like can bake. So I'm using the RCMA no color powder, and I'm just going to dip it in there. Let's see. First of all, it's making a mess. It's getting all over my pants, and it's like falling off the sponge. I'm like, ugh. It's hard to pick up the powder with it, but it does get it on there. And I'm gonna use, you guessed it, the sponge for the other side. So it definitely applied the powder onto my face, not too bad. It is just like really messy because it doesn't like pick up the powder as well as the sponge. It doesn't have anything to like stick to, so it gets everywhere. I also want to see how it applies some powder highlight, so I'm going to just kind of brush this off, and I'm just going to be taking the Carly Bible palette, and I'm going to use the first highlighter right here, like the pinkier shade. Definitely puts on highlighter really nicely. And for this side, I'm just going to use a little angled brush. I'm just going to do another close-up so you guys can see. This is the Silisponge side, and then this is the sponge side. So honestly, I really can't tell too much of a difference. I just feel like this side looks less texturized, whereas this side looks like a little bit more caked on and not as natural of a finish, which definitely makes sense just because this thing applies like a ton of product. Like it gives you all the pigment and like full opacity of everything, whereas the sponge definitely shears things out more. So just so you guys can see a little bit closer on the finish of the two. Alright guys, so that was the completed demo and review on the Silisponge dupe guy, and then also my Real Techniques blending sponge. Let me know what you guys think. What did you like better, the sponge side or the Silisponge side? I honestly don't hate this. I thought I was going to because everyone was like, this thing is terrible. I honestly don't mind it. I actually think I would use it again. I'm probably the only person to say that. I really did not think it was that bad. Of course, I do love my sponge so much more. I will definitely say that this is like totally the winner, but this really wasn't bad. If you want maybe like a really full coverage day of like all the foundation just being like kind of put on your face and not losing any of its like opacity, then definitely use this. It's not that great for like blending out the under eye. It was kind of like a struggle because it's just not as like nicely shaped as the sponge, and it doesn't have that nice pointed tip. So overall, I don't hate it. So I don't know if you guys tried it. Let me know what you think of the Silisponge. I'll leave it in the comments down below. And that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on social media if you haven't yet. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Make sure you like this video, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!